Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode, as the judge allows us to continue the case, we heard testimony from a Drone B meterman in regards to the Altamont Gas Company's investigation into William Shamspeare's gas thievery. As while the company couldn't see how their suspect was managing to cheat the meter, we figured it out, with ice coins molded with the soap bars in the room supplied to the machine that melt right back out from a hole in the bottom. While that casts more aspersions on our victim's character, Barok Van Ziek makes his comeback by asking us, "What exactly did you establish with your most recent cross-examination?" Well, that Mr. William Shamspeare is a liar and a thief. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it. That's exactly it. Very well, let us assume the man is a liar. Now, allow me to pose another question. What possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. And on the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. Even if William Shamspeare is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There's no escaping it. Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. You... What? Order! Order! Well, counsel, how does the defense respond? Mr. Naruhodo! What was the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Lord Van Ziek is saying? Well, it's not often the wait-and-see approach actually does anything for us, so let's raise an objection and see what's next. So did penalty, right? No, this isn't over. The defense will not rest. What? But counsel, you've successfully explained everything. You've identified and substantiated the unscrupulous method employed by Mr. Shamspeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss? Lord Van Ziek just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. But contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all. What are you trying to say, my Nipponese friend? At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption made due to a lack of evidence. But the situation has changed now, following the cross-examination of the latest witnesses to take the stand. Don't be absurd. What is this nonsense? Yes, when you bring everything we've learnt so far together and consider it as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that we now need to reconsider. Namely, was someone else responsible? Was there another visitor? Was the poison in the tea? I mean, was someone else responsible would be good, but that's kind of vague. Was there another visitor? Unlikely. I mean, Mr. Garadeb might have done testimony to that point. And in a sense, I guess we know that Mr. Garadeb isn't being convicted, so he did visit maybe. Was there another visitor? Probably not. So I guess it's just was the poison in the tea because that's the... It's a more succinct thing that is about our defendant. The person we have been employed to defend. If we actually ever get any money, I don't know. We've all been led to believe that the strychnine poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume. But that's conjecture at best.
Objection!
After all, it was so much later. Could it be gas? The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There is no other possibility. And since there was no trace of the tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of the poison.
Objection!
As I said, the situation has changed. Because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene. And a particular piece of evidence proves it.
Objection!
A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. What evidence are you suggesting they missed? The defense has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. What evidence from the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea? Right. I'm assuming that this is important. I'm assuming that this is important. Right, so the current theory is, of course... So he was using... We were saying he was using water to do it. A water would have, no coloration. However, yes, this is going to be Olizand memory here. Mr. Natsume... Sasuke Natsume said that the water thing outside, well, where you get water from was frozen over and you couldn't get water that night. So the only water that possibly Shamspear may have been able to obtain was the tea that has a ring, because while Mr. Natsume drinks it fast when it's hot, this was let to go cold. There's nothing in there now, because quite possibly, of course, it was left to cool so we could put liquid to cast this mold, which makes the, put the thing in there, which makes the question of why this was red, or at least colored, let's put it that way, was true when he was just using normal water. Why would he dye said thing? So the problem is that it's now missing. Maybe it's like become a liquid again and just slipped out from wherever it was. I mean, most likely it did. But maybe the bar of soap took some of the poison, like absorbed it, leached it, if there was poison in the tea, but then they were proving that it's not poison in the tea. Goddamn. Either way, it's either this or this. But we're saying that that was cold tea, and that, I guess the ring they just say was proof that there is tea. So I'm assuming it's this, because I'm saying the tea was poured into that. Is that too much of a thought? Too much of a brain fart?
Take that!
Good gracious! The soap again. The same bar the victim used to fashion his coins of ice. Yes, that's right, my lord. It's just come back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's small bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. As we discovered the gas feast coin factory. Fascinating. In a way, yes. But there's more. The coins we found in the soap at the time weren't normal ice. There was something strange about them, you mean? Exactly. Something very obviously strange. They were red. The ice was red. No. You mean... That's right. It's obvious to me now. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea. What? I would remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspear's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. Hey, look. It's one of those moments where it actually was correct for the right reasons. Instead of just process of eliminationing. Ah, yes. I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It was particularly cold. Sadly, on such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains in the East End are prone to freezing. So on the night in question, Mr. Shamspear, having no running water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. My word! There were 2 bars of soap on the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime, frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shamspear's window. Extraordinary. Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that if even one drop of the tea remained, Scotland Yard would be able to analyze it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been mere conjecture. By finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contains strychnine at all. Ah! You smug Nipponese! My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once, and the defense requests a thorough analysis of the frozen tea embedded in it, to determine whether or not it contains any poison. But this worries me. Bailiff! Bailiff! Instruct the police to attend the scene at once. Yes, my lord. Understood. It would seem we have no choice but to suspend these proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objection, Lord Van Ziek? None, my lord. Scotland Yard will recover the tea from the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. A trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow. The prosecution and defense may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim. Yes, my lord. Well, we managed to scrape through there somehow. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. To be continued, but not until tomorrow. We continue today. After the jingle, of course. On the 22nd of February at 1:11 p.m, we've come back to Naruhodo's legal consultancy, which seems very empty. Of course, we're just starting off, I guess. Phew, we made it back in one piece. Just. To be perfectly honest, I thought we were finished there for a while. Oh, I know. What a lot of close shaves. There are so many carriages on the streets of London. You were very nearly flattened several times. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Yes, I know. It was a marvelous defense, Naruhodo-san. It really was. I was in awe of you. Oh, thank you. And now that your fervent exploits have won us some more precious investigation time, let's see if we can't find some new clues for court tomorrow. Yes, let's do that. Is everything all right? I suppose. I still can't quite believe it. That's all. That I'm here in England, working as a lawyer, I mean. In the Old Bailey, no less. The truth is, it shouldn't be me, should it? It should be him standing in my shoes. It should be Kazuma. It was Kazuma-sama's wish that you follow him to Great Britain and work alongside him. Yes, I mean, I never had the chance to ask him exactly why, but he clearly had a plan. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And you're doing wonderfully, Naruhodo-san. I've no doubt that Kazuma-sama would say exactly the same if you were here with us. Thank you, Suzaru-san. Thank you. Well, let us converse then. Today's trial. It was quite a shock early today, wasn't it? When the victim himself turned up in court and took the stand. I know. Not only that, but then finding out that he is actually a barefaced gas thief as well. Yes, that was certainly a surprise to us all. For a while, it seemed as though everyone had quite forgotten about Saseki-san poisoning the tea. Careful of your phrasing, Suzaru-san. He didn't poison anything. And there's more to this Mr. Shamspeare than we yet know. I'm sure of it. Mr. Shamspeare certainly wasn't the noble, upstanding man everyone thought he was at first. What's become of him, actually? I was told that he'd be returning to the hospital ward where he was receiving treatment. Oh, which one is that? Let me see. Ah, yes, he's at St. Bartholomew's, of Bart's, as Londoners call it. He's at Bart's. We know that place, don't we? Yes, we visited Miss Green there yesterday. It's the same hospital to which he was taken. Ah, yes, after Soseki-san stabbed her in the back. Oh, be careful of your phrasing, Naruhodo-san. He didn't stab anyone. Perhaps we both owe Soseki-san an apology. St. Bartholomew's. Yes, we should probably visit the hospital later. What next? So, we know that Soseki-san took tea to the victim on the night in question, but as he isn't the culprit, then obviously... Yes, the poison surely wasn't in the tea. But if that's the case, how on earth did the poison get into Mr. Shamspeare's body? I'm sure we'll find a clue at the scene. There must be something in Mr. Shamspeare's room that will help solve the mystery. Well, naturally Scotland Yard detectives have been over the place already. But it couldn't hurt for us to have another look around, I think. Definitely. And I'm desperate to know the outcome of the investigation into the tea left in the bar of soap. Well, if we run into Inspector Gregson, we could ask him about that. Kazuma Asogi, the best friend I ever had. And a lawyer with such promise. He really saved my bacon in that horrible incident just before we left Japan. I can still picture him now, looking so fierce and determined in court. And then after the trial, that crazy idea he came up with. As a stowaway. Yes, you can fit inside my trunk if you curl up small enough, I'm sure. No one will know. Kazuma, won't you tell me why? Why go to these lengths so that I can accompany you to Great Britain? Well, it's been on my mind ever since we got through that trial. You really ought to go into law. Be a defense lawyer. You've got a natural talent for it. Believe me, I guarantee it. But I've never even thought about becoming a lawyer. Well, I can't force you, obviously. You'll have to decide for yourself. But anyway, London is the cultural capital of the world. The city at the forefront of everything. It can't hurt for you to see it with your own eyes. No, that's true. I suppose, though, if you were to become a lawyer, then one day... One day what? Oh, no. Never mind. Naruhodo-san. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about Kazuma. Yes, he's forever in my thoughts too. To change the Japanese judicial system for the better. That was his dream. And that's why he so desperately wanted to come to Great Britain to study, of course. Yes, that's right. But... Yes? I do wonder if his true intentions lay elsewhere sometimes. I don't know. The thought just takes hold of me every now and then. That's all. True intentions? Naruhodo-san, what do you mean by Kazuma-sama's true intentions? I mean this. His katana. I never expected to inherit this sword after Kazuma passed away, of course. No, I know. It was because I asked you to take it. When I have it at my side in court, I feel as though it gives me courage. Yes. Actually, the night before he died, he told me a little about the sword. Kaluma. That's right. It's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Kaluma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. Something you have to do. Yes. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. What did he mean by something very important that I have to do? I'd hoped that the answer to that question would become apparent when we arrived here, but as yet I've not found a single clue. I see. And so, with no more dialogue options, I guess we move on, but I want to check out... Have they already sorted out the rooms? I heard that there's another room behind that door. Yes, it's my bedroom, Naruhodo-san, as you well know. Shall I help you unpack your things? That's very kind, but no thank you. Your luggage looked very heavy. Are you sure I can't help you move it? That's very kind, but really, no thank you. A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know. The only secrets I have is the 5 yen banknote hidden on the backside of my Daruma doll. Oh, where's that? I can't really see the Daruma doll. Perhaps we should put this spade away somewhere. That's not a spade, Naruhodo-san. It's a shovel. And we had this conversation? No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. I feel like we've had this argument. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? You're so right, Naruhodo-san. We mustn't quarrel over such trifles. On reflection then, I think I'll leave this spade where it is. Yes, I think that's for the best. We may need a shovel when we're working in the garden. We have a little bit of a difference at the end. I almost expected to see Shoshome somewhere. These tanks are for keeping sea creatures. They're called aquariums, and they were all the rage in London at one time, apparently. Yes. The English are so clever coming up with the idea of having ocean life on display in the home. And it means you always have an emergency midnight feast on hand, too. What? I'm not sure that's really the idea. Yes, because of course that's what a Japanese person would think of an aquarium. Sure. I was wondering if anyone was in. That does appear to be the case. Why is there a duck in the bin? Oh, Runo and Susie! Hooray, you're back! Hello, Iris. You're in fine spirits as always, I see. I am, and you look as immaculately presented as ever, Susie. Oh, you flatter me. Well, you couldn't have come at a better time. I've just made a pot of tea. I'll set some cups. Really? Thanks, Iris. But actually, it was me. What is that foul smell? Aha! The wanderers return at last. Where on earth have the pair of you been? We've been in court. Oh, for Mr. Mustache's case. That was today, was it? I'm sure I mentioned it only yesterday, Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure you think you did. Ha 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 ha. Well, we can laugh about it now. So tell me, how did the trial go? Reasonably well so far. We've managed to escape without a guilty verdict, at least. Really? I would have liked to see it. And I must pass the time of day with Mr. Reaper again. It's been too long. Is Lord Van Ziek's an acquaintance, Mr. Shome? Naturally. There's not a person in the world who doesn't know my name, Mr. Naruhodo. Not quite what I asked, but still. Mr. Sholmes. Whatever is that odor? Yes, what is it? It's faint, but absolutely awful. Ah, indeed. That's the scent of victory, my dear fellows. Victory in science. Oh, dear. All right, I'll bite. What's he up to now? What are you up to now? Well, ask you about Lord Van Ziek's first. Lord Barok Van Ziek's. Yes, it's an interesting sobriquet he has, isn't it? The Reaper of the Bailey. Once the legendary prosecutor has fought for someone's conviction, that person is doomed. Even if he or she is found not guilty by the courts. Sooner or later, the hapless soul will vanish from the capital. But vanish how exactly? By falling under a passing carriage or drowning in the Thames? Or succumbing to a sudden fever, or quite out of the blue being set upon by a highwayman. There are numerous routes to one's final terminus, my dear fellow. It all seems a little far-fetched, really. Well, on the bright side, Mr. Mustache is fighting fit. For the time being, at least. That's not overly reassuring. If the rumors are true, though, the obvious conclusion would surely be that those acquitted are, well, by Lord Van Ziek's own hand. As it happens, Miss Susato, that is quite impossible. Oh? Why? Naturally, the man very quickly came under such suspicion. However, whenever these incidents occurred, the Reaper always had a cast-iron alibi. Really? And so his reign continued, but 5 years ago, he vanished from the courts, never to appear as a prosecutor again. That is, until you arrived in the country, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, so I've heard. In fact, it was the very day I arrived when I was thrust into that trial at the Old Bailey. That bitter fight to the death coincided with the Reaper's resurrection, and really did end bitterly indeed. And here you are, facing Mr. Reaper again. Poor Runo, I don't know if you're just incredibly unlucky, or incredibly unlikable. I think it goes deeper than just me. I sense a general loathing of all Japanese people. Do we question the foul smell or continue with the Japanese people line of question? Probably that. With Mr. Natsume, who I'm currently defending being Japanese, as well as Miss Susato and myself, I felt it even more keenly in court today. For some reason, Lord Van Ziek seems to have an inherent disdain of the Japanese. Indeed. It is an interesting observation. Do you know something about it? Do you, Mr. Sholmes? It was about 10 years ago that Barok Van Ziek chose to enter the legal profession. However, before that time, the young man's closest companion hailed from the Empire of Japan. No! What the? Tell us more, Mr. Sholmes. What happened? I believe I've made it clear before. I'm unable to tell you anything about the affair. Oh, but... The veil will be lifted on the events of the past in due course, I have no doubt. For now, however, it is Mr. Mustache who is most deserving of your attention, I believe. You tease. So, what is that indescribably foul smell? Ah, well, most probably this, I would say. What is that? My dear fellow, it is of course my latest invention. A chemical test that can identify whether or not a tea is genuine at the drop of some tea. Oh my! There are some unscrupulous sorts manning the stalls along some of London's less frequented streets. They regularly sell what purports to be high-quality tea, but is in fact merely dyed leaves of drab flavor. Well, that's certainly unsavory behavior. So when one is presented with what appears to be black tea, one must be careful. Iris? At the ready, Hurley. Let's just add a drop of my chemical to this cup of tea here. You see what happens? It's turned completely black. And what a foul odor it's giving off. Indeed. The blacker the tea becomes and the more foul the odor, the better the tea is. It would appear that this cup was a particularly fine Darjeeling. That's very ingenious, but what do you do with that black liquid now? Why, dispose of it naturally. Surely you wouldn't like to drink it, would you? There does seem to be a rather obvious problem with your new invention, Mr. Sholmes. Hence why this chemical test is merely a test, my dear madame. Right. The point is, we are entering a new era of science. In the world of criminal investigation also. Yes, forensic science! Oh, these are such exciting times! I regularly engage in this scientific experimentation alongside my unofficial or consulting detective work. The Herlock Sholmes method will be the foundation upon which modern investigative technique is based. This little tea indicant was a happy byproduct of my ongoing forensic science research. Forensic science? I suppose I should find out more about that. Ooh. So, your tea test, is that an example of forensic science? Indeed it is. An essential tool in cases that hinge on the knowledge of whether some tea is of high or inferior quality. Not a huge number of cases, then. Perhaps a more practical example is required. Fingerprints? Not yet accepted in our courts as evidence, I might add. Really, we are dragging our heels there. I'd even heard of them until recently. Which is partly why I undertake research in this field myself, of course. Does that mean you're studying fingerprints, Mr. Sholmes? There are others in that field already, and I abhor the company of inferior minds. Now, what I am researching is skin prints. Skin prints? A nomenclature of my own design, as is this chemical agent that makes it possible. It instantly reveals objects touched by whichever person is under investigation. Brilliant, Mr. Sholmes. As long as it doesn't turn everything completely odorous and black. I assure you, my dear fellows, you will witness my forensic talents in action very soon indeed. Well, I think we should go back to the scene and see if we can uncover any new clues. That's the spirit, Bruno. See you later. Yes, until later. No, Mr. Sholmes, we were thinking you'd come with us. You were? Yes, of course, you said so just a moment ago. You said we'd witness your forensic talents in action. Ah, yes, I do recall saying something along those lines. But you go on ahead. I shall be sure to follow you later, in all likelihood. Probably. Maybe. Well, I might. Your commitment astounds me. Oh, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. We'll eagerly await your arrival. Bye-bye, Bruno. Bye, Susie. And so with that, it looks like we move along. But we could examine some stuff for the time being, because Sholmes' room is always ever a mess. But equally, just continue on next time. Oh, look, typing up things. It's interesting looking at them there, sweet. Just acting out, being themselves. So with that said and done, that brings to an end another episode of the Great Ace Attorney to Resolve, where it seems we get another investigation phase. So with Sholmes hopefully showing us his forensic science talents next time, we head around to find more evidence, learn more about this case, and hopefully get Sasuke Natsume off yet again. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.